Welcome to the Full Fueled Podcast. Welcome to the Full Fueled Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast.
With your host, Matt Tack.
With your host, Matt Tack.
Your host, Matt Tack.
Who are you?
I'm Dr. Alfred Alessi.
Dr. Alfred Alessi.
Dr. Alfred Alessi.
They know by now, bro. They know by now.
I'm going to set what the new normal looks like in my life.
You're not limited by your genetics.
You have a superpower that is lifting people up. Dude, you
The only way we're going to get the word out is with you. Live full fueled. Live beyond limits, baby.
Let's go.
All right, Matt Tack, thanks for being here with Full Fueled. How are you doing?
Doing great. I'm doing great. After these hurricanes, doing a lot better. We're in Tampa Bay.
Are you in? Oh my goodness, man. So you were right in the thick of it. Did you evacuate? Did you stay? What'd you do?
No, we evacuated this one. The first one we didn't, and it got a little testy. So my wife, she definitely wanted to get out of this one. So we went to Orlando, felt safe there. We got through it virtually unscathed, but there was a lot of heavy destruction throughout the West Coast here. It's crazy.
Yeah, man, I'm glad. Really glad that you got out in time, because I had a buddy who lives in Tampa as well, and he texted and was going, well, I didn't evacuate in time, so I'm staying, and it got real dicey for him. Luckily, he is doing okay too. But glad to hear you're back home, I assume, and trying to resume and put things together.
Yeah, back home, and we're putting things together, as well as the business, because it hit small businesses pretty hard too, in terms of just shutting down. I mean, basically, people aren't coming in; they're fixing up their homes, boarding up their homes, saying goodbye to things. So, but we are back full in the swing of things now.
Man, well, and that's super relevant to our audience too, because as therapists, especially ones who were probably affected by the hurricane, they're the same way. When clients aren't coming in, they're not making money. And so a lot of times these things can really put a hindrance on the business. So I'm excited to talk to you. I'd love to just have you give an intro to our listeners of who you are, what you do, and how you serve people.
Yeah, so we have Alessi Functional Health, which is brick and mortar functional wellness, where we pretty much do chiropractic, decompression, soft wave. So pretty much everything. We even put some cold plunge and infrared saunas in there too for total body therapy. But then we also have a coaching platform for really 35 guys 35 and up. We like guinea pigging ourselves first. So we just handle from the full spectrum of things, getting blood work done, getting to just data and full body optimization, as well as diving into basically our three pillars, which are mindset, nutrition, and muscle. And so that's what we have going on right now. And we're building out the clinic. Like, as I told you, kind of pre-show, we're looking to scale through additional locations, through acquisitions right now. So busy on the home front, kind of across the board.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm curious on both sides of it, and I'm going to pick your brain on both what you do for clients, but even on the business side, because I'm sure there's a lot of overlap and alignment with your business model. I know we've worked with a lot of therapy practices who have a similar mindset. They acquire other practices, and that's how they extend their reach. So that's one really great way of growing and expanding. And also what you're talking, I mean, as a male over 35, when I was 37, I decided to prioritize my physical health and mental health and getting blood work. I never had worked out in my life, had never done any of it. And here I'm 39 now and feel the best I've ever felt as a result of focusing on those three things. So talk to me as people who are busy in their business, how important are those things? How do we even take that first step in prioritizing them?
Yeah, that's, even for our docs, right? So I handle the ops side of our business, and then even our docs, that's one of the things that we have for really as a non-negotiable for everyone that we bring on board, even onto our team, is really allocating the time and putting that into your calendar. And so whether it's on lunch or in the morning, so we do, standard chiropractic hours are actually kind of funny because they're like kind of all over the place, and we're trying to actually draw that more in, but there's got to be a separation of how you're investing into yourself and into your business, and then your overall quality of life. So our docs actually work out kind of on their break, and they head to the gym, and then they'll come back. That's just one thing that's been a really good cadence with the docs, and making sure that's a priority, right? So 3 days a week, they're into the gym, they're working out. But, I always go back, it's got to be programmed into the calendar. So, you can tell your priorities by looking at your calendar. And so you want to just make sure you prioritize those. And that's one thing. If we're going to lead the charge in functional wellness and that total body health, we want to make sure we're looking the part. We were just talking about this the other day in terms of like that is our brand, right? And as business owners, we want to demonstrate that where, we don't want somebody coming in and asking us and then we look like we're 30, 35 pounds overweight, not making really quality decisions about the longevity of our life. And so we want to look the part, we want to look that brand, and so it's really important. So we always talk about obviously nutrition and how we optimize nutrition, but then also resistance training is a major component to what we do, and we want to hold ourselves to that standard as well.
That's great. I completely agree that you want to live that model. And it sounds like, I would imagine, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that looking that part, having that, the physical side locked in and having all those things, it probably doesn't come easy. It's not natural for everyone. It takes work and it takes energy, right? I mean, that's, you got to put the time in and the energy to get to where you are.
Yeah, for sure. What's funny, you saying that is like, when you work out consistently, people think that it's enjoyment, and to an extent it is, but like you're inflicting like almost pain with resistance training. Like it's difficult, right? You're stepping into a layer of discomfort. And so my wife tends to think I like love working out. And sometimes I'm crawling to the gym. I'm like, man, I got to work out again. Like I got to get it in. But, it's those disciplines. And I was sharing a story about this, that, post hurricane, I really got into a funk. Like it was a real funk. Like you're just fed negativity, constantly on the news. And, it was a weird kind of thing because we live on the water, and we had to say goodbye to our house. Like we thought we're going to be 5 feet underwater. So, by the grace of God, it went further south and we didn't get that much water. But, I would like in a real funk. And somebody asked me about the difference between motivation and discipline. And really, when you build those disciplinary habits, that's what creates the motivation, right? And so the discipline really shortens the gap to when you're in those lulls. And I was like, all right, I need to get back to basics. I need to get back to the fundamentals of just like getting into the gym and prioritizing my health again. Because when you're in and out of hotels, for a period of a week, you probably aren't eating the best, not getting the most efficient workouts. You're not in your routine, but that's the beauty of discipline. And then comes the motivation. So that was really the separator there. I was like thinking and processing through that is just getting back to the basics, getting out of the funk, because that funk can truly extend if you don't hold yourself to the disciplines you need to.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's great. And I think you're right. It's, I think, for me, my wife has also said, oh, it's nice you get an hour break at the gym, or you can step away. And yeah, I enjoy aspects of it. Typically, I enjoy the way I feel after. If I could snap my fingers and be in shape and never have to step foot in the gym, sign me up. I would do it. So it's because, I do weightlifting, and it's, it's not as relaxing as it can seem. It's good for my mental health and how I feel, but it's not. I was talking to my therapist about it one time, because as he was talking about, do you ever take time for yourself? I'm like, well, I go to the gym. And he's like, do you go to the gym because it's an obligation or because you want to be there? I was like, well, it's because I've committed to going 3 times a week, and it's like, oh, I have to go today because I've only been twice already. So to that point, that discipline is huge. And there's days where I'm feeling it and I'm motivated, and there's days where even just showing up there is enough for me, and that's a win in itself. So as busy business owners, you sounds like you guys have baked it into just your core values at your company. And so therapists who are listening with your team, that's probably something you could consider doing. But the owners, it's really prioritizing time. Is that right? You have to make sure it's at the top of your list of things you want to do.
Yeah, because if we don't do it, we can't really truly be there for our people. We know that exactly what you said. It's like, it is a mental health thing, right? If I feel it, I always have this motto: is I look good, feel good, play good, right? If I look good, if I feel like I look good, then I'm feeling probably good and I'm playing good. And our playground is our business a lot of times. And so I want to make sure I'm coming there with the best attitude. And the only way I can truly come there with the best attitude is really prioritizing that time, getting some quality work in the weight room, that resistance training for me. Some people might be running or another layer of activity. For me, it's that. We do have hobbies though too. One thing you had mentioned, like, do you do for your time? Like, I play basketball. That's one thing, although I am feeling it. So I'm the same age as you and I'm 39. And I was like, man, I've feel this a lot more like that I used to. But definitely enjoy playing the game. That's something that I train for, and I kind of like let loose a little bit and just hit my flow kind of outside of the work environment.
Yeah, I that's great. I think it's really prioritized. And I hear people tell me all the time, I just don't have time. I don't have time, or I didn't have time to do X, Y, or Z, or I wish I could focus on those things, but I'm busy with the business and I don't have time. And I think reframing that has been huge for me, at least. And it's like, I am not making the time for that, or I'm not prioritizing that right now, because truthfully, we all have the time for what's important to us. And if you're choosing to see more clients or focus all your energy on the business or focus on family or whatever it is, then that's great. But that's a choice that we make versus being a victim to, I don't have time to do things. I don't know if that's something you hear a lot as guys are coming into work with you guys up front. Is time a big excuse, I'm going to say, for why they're not pursuing it or why they haven't pursued it in the past?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that, but my response to always that is like the rebuttal, is like, but when you start prioritizing your health, like, that's when it's going to be the firestorm, right? The absolute like shit show, for lack of better words, right? You're like, oh, now I need to figure it out. Like, that's when people is like, oh, now it's a fire drill, and I need to, oh yeah, I'm going to get to the gym. Or it's come January and you're like, man, I've let another year go by without actually taking care of my health. And so those are usually the things of like, when it's convenient. But to be honest with you, it's never going to be convenient. The reality is, like, the gym or even getting like walking is never going to be convenient. But would you rather potentially have health issues at 42, or would you have a really quality life going in well into your 70s, right? So it's the long game that really counts, and that's what time, right? If you're thinking about like, I need to make more money, because we work with a lot of business owners, that's always the big thing of like, I'm going to miss out. I always ask them, well, how much is enough, right? Like, when is enough? And it can be the same thing with working out, but it also can be the same thing with money. And you need to evaluate that, right? Can I take time? Can I break loose? Can I really focus on, my longevity? Because I do. Maybe you want to see your grandkids. Maybe those are things you just haven't really thought through that. So it's a really good thing to really process through and think through of like, when is enough? And then how can I prioritize maybe a little bit of time to capture that for the purposes of longevity?
Yeah, I heard somebody say recently, your example of being 43, you're going to be 43 no matter what. How are you going to be when you're 43? Are you going to be in the same place you're at now? Whether it's for, we help business owners with their finances is that's what we do. So are you going to be 43 and still struggling or in a deeper hole? Are you going to be 43 and further along, and health wise? Maybe you won't have washboard abs by 43, but are you going to be a better shape than you would be if you didn't do it? And so it's coming regardless. How do we want to be when that actually happens? Now you are selling, and I know you guys have some tangibles, but very similar to us, it's coaching, and very similar to our listeners, it's therapy. And so we call it an intangible in the sense of you're not handing them a product. It's not like they're paying you and you're like, all right, here you go. Here's your washboard abs. We'll see you later. How is it growing a business where you're selling something that they're not getting a direct deliverable, if that makes sense?
People have to work towards it. Yeah.
Yes.
It's, that's a little hard when there's a layer of discomfort involved. It's always getting people like the buy-in and the buy-in process early. One thing that we always do is we do a detox. So like small wins early are really big. People like seeing wins early. And it's something that I've been doing on a quarterly basis. So I actually was talking about this in a previous podcast. I got big into fasting. But one of the things that I saw was I was just losing a crazy amount of muscle mass during that time. And so I was looking between, from a scientific background, autophagy versus mTOR. I'm like, I'm going to lean a little bit more into the mTOR side in terms of production, so I can maintain muscle mass later on. I don't want to be losing muscle mass at 39. And so one of the things that, we do is just people haven't really experienced a level of like hunger. And so we'll either take them through a 7 or 14 day like detox period to get that small win right off the bat of like, wow, I just dropped 5 or 10 pounds. Right. And so when people can get that kind of early momentum, and then be like, oh, I think I can do this, and then get them programming. So we had an app built out for our guys where we do all their programming for them. We plug that in so they can get an idea of what resistance training is and more of a guide. Because there's so many people, that's a big thing too. As far as like you go in a gym today and everyone's sitting on the bench looking at their phone for an hour. It's like there was a reel that my buddy showed me, and there was this guy joking around with another guy, but he would go up to people and he'd be like, "Hey, how many texts you got left?" Thinking sets you got left.
Yeah.
And, they're like, just 2. Oh, really? Just 2? Can I get one of those? Like he was joking around, but going in with the attitude, I have a plan, I have a program, I'm going to get through this, and then I'm going to get out. So a lot of my workouts, are 45 minutes, hour long. I'm in and out, hyper efficient, hit my hypertrophy, and then I'm good. So it's just, getting over those hurdles early, because it's usually a lot of guys that knew what they were when 22, 23, but a lot of them have this mentality that, the best days are behind me, not ahead of me. Well, when the reality is, man, you can turn it around, trust me. But you just need that belief in yourself. So it's really coaching through the belief in yourself that you can motivate them to the extent that it hits that tipping point, as Malcolm Gladwell penned.
Yeah, completely. It's I've heard people, and myself included. That's one thing I told my coach before I hired him was, I was like, I've just always been somebody who doesn't grow muscle. Just genetically, I can't build muscle. And I learned quickly that that's not true. That's probably was an excuse that kept me out of the gym forever. And we call it the journey of change, is what we see in our clients. And I felt it whenever I was going through my own fitness journey. And it's, we see 3 phases. We got the high when you first start, and it's like sacrifice and hard work and pain. It's almost fun. Like, who cares? This is great. And you see some maybe quick results. Then we typically see the dip. And this is where most people fall off when they're on their own. And it's when it stops being fun, it stops being new. The newness of being at a gym is no longer cool. You're tired and you don't want to go. And usually that's where they fall off. And that's where I would fall off whenever I would try and get in shape on my own. And then the people who push through that typically see what we call the stretch, which is it's now ingrained into your lifestyle. You're not always going to feel like going, but like you were talking about, that discipline level of, this is who I am. I'm somebody who goes to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. And I know that I'm not going to feel kind of complete until I've done that. Do you see something similar in your industry as you're working with the people? And to that credit, why people should be working with someone like you guys?
Yeah, for sure. I call it it's very similar. I call it the grind, the growth, and the gold. The first kind of phase is going to be that grind phase. You might be in a little bit of a honeymoon period, but then it'll get to the grind. When you can get through that grind period, you hit the growth. And the growth really is like the way you talk to yourself. I have one guy that I'm working with, and he talks to himself so pessimistically. And I said, hey, no, you got to change that into like, no, I will, or I am becoming, instead of like, nah, I can't do that. And like, what are you teaching your kids when you say that too, right? I always try to live out my dream, and I want my kids to see me living out my dream so that they can pursue their dreams. I think that's really, really important. So that aspect of like how we talk to ourselves, and really catching it before it goes too long, because then that's really is what's going to promote that level of growth, which then on the other side of that, you're going to hit the gold, right? The honeypot's on the other side. And so that's just really important. And I think getting through that is like, I think Ed Milet said this one time, usually when people become overweight, they want to attribute or see themselves as an overweight person, instead of like, no, I am a skinny person that just happened to gain weight, and I'm just going to get back to my old self. So it's reframing that script and that story of what you tell yourself. That's so good.
Man, that's cool. Yeah, that's really, really good. I think that mindset piece is huge and such a game changer. I think so with these business owners, and that's your niche. Or you work with a lot of them. I don't know if that's your niche or not, but you work with a lot of business owners in their fitness side. We are big believers in prioritizing yourself as a business owner. No one goes and starts their own therapy practice because they want to work long hours and make no money and feel stressed and burnt out. I think taking care of your body and taking care of all these things is super important part of that. You kind of alluded to at least one piece, which is maybe scheduling it into your calendar. But what are some of your tips for people? Is it get up earlier and do it? Is it ingrained into your work day? How do you help people find that time or make that thing a priority in their schedules?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to come down to really you kind of putting it out there like, hey, I'm going to do it because I feel like I have the capacity on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So you said 3 days a week, right? That you can program that in. And usually people have, like, if they look at their schedule, it's rather rhythmic, right? Like if you truly look at it, hey, I do a lot of the same things, and then I can find some small gaps. And so one of the things for me is like, hey, cardio. Well, I can do cardio in the morning. And so, hey, what would be the best way? Well, I like getting on the bike. Hey, Pelotons are great. It's 30 minutes, hyper focused, hitting hills with Alex Toussaint is great. Boom, you're done. 30 minutes. And everyone has that, that 30 minutes. So like programming it in. So whether you're going to do it in the morning or you're going to be doing it in the afternoon, it's like, where's the opening? I like telling people though, where's your controllable? So you always need to look at it like, where's the controllable of time, right? Because with kids, you tend to lose a lot of control. And so usually that comes in the afternoon. So I typically tell people, like, don't try to program stuff in the afternoon because that's really going to be hard. And where your controllables are typically the time you go to bed and the time you wake up. And the time you wake up, if it's 30 minutes earlier and you're putting on some boots to get on the Peloton, or you're doing some class or whatever it might be. After a while there, when my kids were extremely young, I did kettlebells at home. So I had to like make use of time of when so I wasn't able to strength train at the gym just because my kids were like, I had 3 under 5. And my wife, she would have killed me if I went away for an hour, right? Now we're in a better process of how we operate. And so I do have the capacity to go to the gym now, but I also realize that some people don't. And so then how do you do that? Kettlebell is an amazing tool that you can get hyper efficient resistance training at a very fast rate, and they're relatively cheap, right? $80, you can get all different sizes. So to what you program in, but I do tell people, like, in the mornings are always best because typically that's going to be the controllable. They're going to be the hardest because mornings are always hard. You're like a little froggy. But at the same time, like, that's when discipline occurs. Like, hey, I set this as a non-negotiable. I'm doing this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whether I like it or not.
Yeah, I think that's great. You're right. Sleep, of course, especially in the moment, but that's the easiest time to find where you can squeeze a little time for me. And it was also, I do mine at lunchtime, just based on our work day. And typically when I get the most work done is first thing in the morning. So I've done lunchtime, but basically what I did was used to have an hour and a half blocked on my calendar for lunch, and I just added an extra half hour. So now I have 2 hours. That's enough time to go to the gym and come home and eat before my next meeting. And another thing that's helped to me, and you can tell me whether this is a healthy mindset or not, is those days, maybe a meeting runs long and I was supposed to go to the gym and I'm like, I'll only have time for maybe a 20 or 30 minute workout. My mindset is some is better than none. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go because it's easier for me to be like, well, I missed it. Sorry. I'll just have to skip today versus I'm like, I'm going to go in at least for 20 or 30 minutes, even if it's just, I do 2 to 3 workouts and then, exercises and then I have to come back home. That's a lot of times for me, it's almost motivating to be like, all right, the win today was that I still made it into the gym. Those kind of small wins that you were talking about.
I couldn't agree more. I do that all the time. Like, my day will get hectic. It's funny because we have the exact same schedule. I work out during lunch now. It's just better for me. I'm able to capture that time. I typically don't like eating something super heavy in the middle of the day. So I'm like, this is perfect time. And then when meetings run late, similar today, is just a quick 20-30 minute. And that's the beauty of like supersets, right? I get in there, I knock out some supersets, and then I'm out. But getting a 20 to 25 minute really hyper focused workout in is better than nothing. It's the compounding effect. It's just like time, it's just like money.
Yeah, great. And it sounds like even too, and maybe this is just what I might even need to add into my repertoire, is having a 20 to 30 minute workout just in my back pocket, because I know those days are going to happen. And it's just something that's really intentional and focused, versus now it's like, well, here's the workout I was going to do. I'm just going to pick a few off of the list and go with that. But man, this has been super, super helpful, Matt. I think physical health, mental health, all these things are tied together. We didn't even get into sleep, I don't think, because I know you guys help people talk about the importance of sleep and the value of sleep. What are your thoughts on that and how it relates to everything we've been talking about?
Yeah, I mean, sleep is huge in terms of understanding like your body's rhythm on a day to day. What is wild, for the past week, I've actually taken a 20-minute nap. So I close my eyes in the middle of the day. I don't sleep, but like I kind of have a subconscious meditative state, and it kind of like hurls me into the second half of the day. And it really gives me a lot of momentum. I just have like a lot more energy, way less stress too. So, I do a bunch of different things, but I do have a bedtime. I go to bed before 10 o'clock every night, hands down. It's kind of a non-negotiable. And then the other things, I was actually talking about this in a previous podcast, but like one thing that I've done over the past 4 or 5 months is I've actually put my phone into the living room, and then I have like an alarm clock that wakes up to bird singing. Oh, it's a
A
lot more
real alarm
therapeutic.
clock? Can you even
A
have
real,
those anymore?
I know. So it's like, I thought about it, just like the negative energy that typically a phone has once you hold it in your hands. It's like, I'm going to be dealing with the rest of the day. I don't want that. The first thing that I touch is my phone, which naturally is just going to take away. It's not going to mainly give to me. But sleep and just the rhythm of sleep is so important. Yeah, we get really nerdy about it. I highly recommend Whoop bands or Aura rings to just really understand the cadence of stages 1, 2, and 3, like, and then deep REM sleep and your slow wave sleep. Like, just try to get data, because that is like, that's healing, recovery, optimization. That starts with what happens in the bed. So, always say, preserve the bed for 2 things: sex and sleep. That's it.
Man, I sleep has been like on the forefront lately. I did the sleep study because I'm going, okay, that's just the next thing I know I need to optimize. I'm terrible about having a bedtime, and that's the no excuses. That's just me not prioritizing it. I tend to find other things I want to do, and I know the second I lay in bed, I'm going to fall asleep immediately. But I've been trying to learn more about how to just get better sleep, and take in different magnesiums and things to try and help that restful state. But I know it has a trickle effect. I know the days that I don't sleep well, I tend to consume more food. I tend to be more lethargic and maybe don't go to the gym. And so, man, it ties into so many things. And I'm not nearly as focused either. So that's huge. I really want to learn more. I probably need to get one of those Aura rings and just learn more about myself. And another similarity, I take a 20-minute power nap most days. Right, I took one right before we got onto this call, just a little quick recharge on the couch. My wife has no idea how I can do it. If she lays down, she'll be out for 3 hours. But she's like, "How is that refreshing?" I'm like, I feel like a new person. I'm like, I'm great.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much. Tell us how people can get in touch with you. I know there's probably a lot of business owners out there listening and going, they're ready to prioritize this. How can they reach out to you? What do you guys have? Just tell us what they can do to get connected.
Yeah, we have, obviously our podcast, is the Full Field podcast. We launched that last year, so that's been a lot of fun to do. But we're on every syndication source, so you can check us out at iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. And then I'm on Instagram at human.optimizer, and then typically on Facebook is where I post to Matthew Tack. And then if you want to check out our coaching program, it's at fitness.fullfield.com. We have a few programs that if you're interested, you could DM me or just click the link, and we'll make sure to get in contact with you. But those are the best ways.
Awesome. We'll link all those in the show notes so people can find you and get connected. I'm going to be subscribed to your Full Field podcast because I can already tell it's probably exactly what I need to be listening to while I'm at the gym. I'll be listening to it while I'm working out. That's the best time to that's the best time to learn and grow. But Matt, man, I appreciate it. I would love to have you back on sometime because I know we barely scratched the surface here, but thank you for your time and thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it, Craig. Thanks so much.
Welcome to the Full Field Podcast.
I'm going to set what the new normal looks like in my life.
You're not limited by your genetics.
You have always superpower that is lifting people up.
So unfortunately, most businesses aren't going to use the highest quality ingredients.
What's your approach?
He's jacked.
I know he's jacked. That's why I'm
I
asking him
don't
how he
think he
trains.
I don't think he lifts.
Yeah.
Consistency in everything that we do that really compounds.
Only way we're going to get the word out is with you. Live full fueled, live beyond limits, baby.
Let's go.